with the Bills season coming up, I feel like I want to talk about a little bit of what I think is going to happen while I show some highlights from the preseason and some good plays that we liked from the preseason, or that at least that I like from the preseason. And pretty much I like to start off talking about the offense and how I feel they're going to do and the updates that they've made, especially on the offensive line, is going to be a huge help. Getting somebody like Saffold to really solidify the left line next to Morris is going to be nice with Dawkins there. It's going to make us easier to run better. And not only with that, is the addition of James Cook to bring out the pass catching ability that Josh has never really had in the backfield with him. And what I like is the way Moss is looking this year, as we can see in this play that's just was shown here. His vision looks much improved. It looks like he's playing with much more confidence and natural ability that we saw his first year, and not the other two, or at least the other one for sure, where he just looked indecisive. He was coming off injury. He just wasn't running with the confidence that he had his rookie year. And getting Saffold and the line up is going to be nice to have that. And the addition of Bates, staying there for another year, getting Spencer Brown back, the year of experience for him. And just overall, the level this offense can work at. And I think Daboll's loss is overblown, mostly because I feel like Daboll kind of hits the coattails of Allen a little bit. I'm not saying he didn't help Allen, that he didn't do it, but I think Daboll gets a little too much credit for Josh and what Josh has done. If anything, I think Jordan Palmer and Josh take a lot of credit, and Dorsey, and then Daboll is the end, because he calls the plays, but Josh is the one that makes it all work, And I think especially last year, the Pittsburgh game and the Jacksonville game, Daboll showed that he gets over his head sometimes. He gets stuck in his ruts. He does too much 11 personnel. And I think with Dorsey, he's going to be a lot more flexible with his play calling and his formations, as we saw with them trying really hard to get as many good tight ends as they could, or at least try O.J. Howard to see how he would work. And he flamed out, so it's going to be Sweeney and Knox with a little bit of Quentin Morris maybe tossed. And I think Morris is going to be the X factor in the tight end room. And then talking about the wide receivers for a second, I really like the addition of Shakir. As much as I want Odell Beckham, I still think we should go after him because he's a veteran and he's a great talented player. And you go 4 wide with Diggs, Davis, McKenzie, and Odell, it's over. There's nothing you can do with that. And not to mention you'd still have at least a running back or a tight end in there, which still creates matchup problems because you still got Josh and his ability to run. But then you can go either take away a running back or something, and you can still bring out another wide receiver or a tight end. There's just so much flexibility you can do with it. But going back to Shakir, I just don't want to put that much on a rookie's plate to start off because of consistency issues, and who knows, it's like eventually they always hit a wall. Look at Rousseau, his rookie year. He started off hot and then hit a little bit of a wall and then picked it back up. It's just Rousseau last year, I should say. Pretty sure it is what it is. His rookie year, but he just doesn't have the confidence that I have to keep him in forever. I'm not saying he's not going to be a factor. Shakir's definitely going to be a factor, and I think Bernard's also going to be a factor because I just love this play. But anyway, I keep getting distracted. But still talking about the offense, I really think that the additions that we've made is really going to be nice. It's just there's not going to be much of a lull. We might take a little dip in the beginning of the season while they figure a little stuff out. Maybe Dorsey gets used to calling plays in a game situation, but I don't think it'll take him long. Dorsey's a very competitive guy, and how quick he can read stuff. I saw a few highlights of him as a college quarterback, and the man's cerebral. He just bam, bam, bam. He just knew what he wanted to do. But I just feel like it's going to take a little bit to figure out what they wanted to be on offense, and then once they get in that groove, they'll be deadly. And then going to the defense for a second, this is the one that's really fun to talk about, is how I think the defense is going to change. Because the additions on the defensive line is going to make this defense a lot scarier. Not only the addition of Von Miller that everybody knows, I mean, obviously Von Miller's amazing. He's going to really take a lot of attention on the right side. And then you've got Rousseau on the left. It's like you've got two absolute beasts. And then you've got Ed Oliver in the middle who, besides Aaron Donald, faced the most double teams. He just didn't beat them as often as Donald did because he's not as much of a freak athlete as Donald is. And he's not as big, but he's still got some moves. And then you put Settle or Daquan Jones next to him, and that's just a monster. I mean, in the first preseason game we saw against Indy with Tim Settle, that he was able to knock back Big Q, Quentin Nelson, which is a feat all in its own right. Who cares if there's no scheming or not like that? That's just a freak athlete, and you knocked him backwards into the quarterback. Then you do the same thing with Ryan Kelly. He's going to be an X factor. I think Daquan Jones is going to be the run-stuffing guy. but Settle's going to force herself in pass rushing situations, and having those four together is going to be huge. Having Settle, Miller, Oliver, and Rousseau all rushing, it's like you got to double team at least 2 out of the 3, or 2 of the 4, or 3 of the 4, and you can't. There's just not enough people. Our defensive line is going to be a huge factor this year, and it's a factor we haven't had across the whole line. And then you had our our linebackers in the case, where you've got Milano and Edmonds, which is going to allow them to free roam with that line being as sick as they are. And then the addition of Bernard, who I was really glad to see that they put him in the A.J. Klein role, the strong side linebacker, if they ever go 4-3, which they usually don't. But the fact that he forced himself onto the field in that role is awesome, because they could have done Tyrell Dodson, they could have done Gallus Harris, anybody. There was people they could have put in there if he didn't perform to the level they were comfortable with. And especially when they made the pick, when I saw the highlights they showed at the draft, he just had a kid that just had a knack for the ball. He had instincts. He just knew where to go. And as you saw in the fumble recovery earlier, and in the first preseason game, he just has the instincts. It's like, that stuff you can't teach, and then you figure the rest out. He's going to be on the field, I think, at some capacity. Probably special teams a little bit, and also he's going to force his way on in defense. Same with Shakir. I think he's already forced himself on the field in punt return. I think he needs a little more experience with that. He could get better. I just didn't like his vision early on, but that could have been just experience. He'd give him more time as he could get better. I like the fact that we put McKenzie back there for kickoff returns, because McKenzie's such a dynamic returner with his speed. You got to get the ball in his hands and play with the games as you must. Even though you don't want to lose him as a receiver, you've got to let him play the ball. And now going to the corners and the safeties on the defensive side. Our safety tandem, we know our safeties. It's Hyde and Poyer, or it's Dr. Jackson with Mr. Poyer. You don't mess with that one. You don't even throw to him. But on the corner side, with Tre'Davious White being out the first 4 weeks, which I was hoping they wouldn't put him on pup. I was hoping they would activate him so we would see him sooner, but I get them not wanting to rush him back, especially early in the season. And that could also be a sign that Elam is better than we thought and we hoped, and he's ready to step in, which he could be. He's showing a lot of instinctive flashes. If he could just get together with that zone reads, he's got the right mindset for everything, and I love it. He's got the right mindset for everything. He's willing to learn everything. And then Dane Jackson is steady as a rock. I feel like he's an upgraded Levi Wallace. He's not the most athletic guy out there, but he's never out of position, and he's at least semi-faster and, a little bit better than Levi Wallace was. Wallace was sometimes a detriment with more athletic receivers, and I think Dane Jackson is a little bit more suited to handle that, as he's shown. He just isn't going to be able to handle everything. And then we've got Benford, who is a real X factor in the defensive backfield, because he came out of nowhere, a 7th rounder, I believe, 7th rounder this year. He's going to be a guy that could force some decisions, because I think he not only plays corner, I think he also played safety in college. And I think they also got Cam Lewis playing safety. They've been changing the guys around because they always like flexibility. If you can play many positions, especially special teams, you're going to be on the team. And that's why Hodges is on the practice squad, and that's why Kumaro is on the team. Even though Hodges showed great flashes during the preseason, he just couldn't put enough special teams together to stay on the team. That catch against Indianapolis, great catch, but he's your 6th, 7th receiver. He's not going to see the field. Kumaro is still going to see the field on special teams, so that's the difference maker. And then you go to our slot corners. You've got Taron Johnson. I already mentioned Cam Lewis. Johnson is one of the best slot corners, and because of his recognition on the run and stuff like that, at least he found the not to keep hurting himself on tackles. He found the right balance so he doesn't keep popping his shoulder out. He's going to have a big task ahead of him with Cooper Kupp. Let's see how he handles that. He didn't do bad against some of the other players, but Kupp's a whole other animal. And then we've got Allen Robinson on the outside week 1, and it's either going to be Elam or Jackson. And I think he's better suited to play against somebody like Elam, because Elam's size and his length, he can overcome that a little bit as long as they keep him in man coverage against Robinson. I'm not going to say Robinson's not going to get him, but I feel like Elam's better suited to handle his athleticism. But again, they could probably just take whatever side it is and let Jackson or Elam handle it. They've shown them they're not going to baby the players at all. They're going to put them in a position to succeed and let them succeed. If they don't succeed, they find somebody who will. And that's the way they've gone. And that's what's going to be really interesting about this first week. I really have a feeling it's going to be more of a medium scoring type game. I think it's not going to be the barn burner that people might say it's going to be, or it's going to be like a defensive struggle. I think there's going to be maybe about 3-4 drives where we come up with field goals or touchdowns. There's going to be enough scores that's going to be entertaining because our defense is much improved, and the Rams' defense, anybody that has Aaron Donald, it's going to be a fun defensive game. There's going to be work to be done in that game. But the more I preview this, it's not really a toss-up, but it's just anything. It could go any way. It's like, it's one of those feels like, or if it's going to be a game of momentum, it's like whatever team scores early is going to ride the momentum, and then if there's an interception or something, the momentum might shift. I consider for the Bills that if we get ahead early and we can control the pace of the game, we'll take it. But if we get stuffed a few times early and say the Rams get like a 2-touchdown lead or a touchdown lead, I feel like we might start rushing ourselves and start playing into their hands, which isn't good. But that's like what I said, where it's like it's not really a toss-up game because it could go either way. But I feel like if one team gets momentum, it could get out of hand, you know. But then again, you could say that with any game. But if I had to give edges or my thing was going to go where, I would have to give the Rams the edge on run game because that's what their style is. They've been doing it forever. I feel like their offense is more tailored this year to be slightly less pass dependent than they were last year, mostly because they had Beckham, they had Kupp, they had Robert Woods, they had Woods until he got hurt, but they had more players to pass it to, and that was Stafford's first year, so they can be heavy on the pass. I feel like with Matthew Stafford's elbow being what it is, I still feel like they're going to bring up a little bit of the run game just to ease them in there and then work with that. And they're going to also try to challenge us because they know our passing. Our passing defense is great. Our run defense was not that good last year, so they're going to threaten that right off the bat. They're going to at least try to run it to bring our safeties up. But I think we have the edge on offense because we just have so many weapons. And the new one, James Cook, I think he's going to be great. I really think eventually he's going to supplant Singletary, and it's going to be more of a 50-50 between those two, with maybe Moss sprinkling in. Because I have a feeling Singletary, this is his last year here. I don't think we're going to re-sign Singletary. But anyways, the edge, if I had to say for special teams, it's probably going to go to the Rams because they've always had great special teams. We're not far behind them, but we just have a little more question marks coming into our special teams this year, especially with the new punter and everything like that, with the whole situation going on there. It's just, there's just too many question marks for ours, and theirs has been steady forever. But in this part of it, I want to talk about what I feel is the lesser-known guys on our roster, the guys that barely made it, people like Shakir, Cook, Spector, the rookies, the ones that I think are going to be shining diamonds in the rough and unsung heroes maybe this year that can play into a role. I think that James Cook, like I alluded to earlier, I think Cook's going to be a huge factor in this game, in this team. I don't think you'd spend a second-round pick on a guy who I thought would have lasted until the third. If the Giants didn't take Wendell Robinson, we would have really made a hard choice of trying to wait on Cook as much as we could, but we lost the guy we were looking at, so they went after Cook early. But anyways, James Cook just has that type of running that the Bills needed. He's a straight pass catcher, great route runner. If his blocking improves, he could be a really nice passing down back because he gives you flexibility, but the way the man runs, there's no waste movement. It's all so smooth. He just puts it right where he needs to go. He hits, runs. He has the right acceleration, the right speed. It's like he's the exact back the Bills have needed for years. As they've tried to do, they tried to sign McKissick this offseason. Didn't work. I'm pretty sure the Rousseau year, we were going after ETN. The Jags drafted him 2-3 picks before we could, so we ended up with Rousseau, which I still think is a nice consolation prize. I am a huge Rousseau fan. Even though I did not expect him, it's not like I didn't want him. I just knew what Bean was looking for, that draft, because he actually went to Clemson's pro day to see ETN, and that was Bean himself. So that was the first time I've ever seen Bean really tip his hand on a player he liked. But, hey, we didn't get him. We got Rousseau, and we got Cook, so I think we won in the end, because I think we got two great players that are going to make a difference. But going to the other side with Shakir on the outside, the thing I really liked about his film, the highlights that I saw through the NFL Network and the YouTube and stuff like that, is the man's just a baller. It's like you could put him anywhere and he doesn't care. He does it. They put him inside. They put him outside. They put him, I think he even had lined up in the backfield a few times, and he still made plays. It's like that's a dude that's just, he reminds me of Gabe Davis. It's just a baller. It's like you put him on the field and he just makes plays. And he'll earn his reps. He'll get time. He'll get out there. Same thing with somebody like a Hodges, where it's like he makes this catch here. With Hodges he's got just enough. He's got the right skill set that they need, but they just can't get him out on the field yet because of our depth, you know? He's just got... Hodges just has the length. He's got some size. He's not really the fastest and the cleanest route runner. He's not a bad route runner, but he's just not as good as everybody else. And I feel after a while, like, Crowder's probably not going to be here next year, obviously. So it's going to be people like Shakir and Hodges. Maybe next year, Hodges supplants Kumaro, and he finally gets himself a roster spot. He's right there. And then the surprise that everybody has on their mind for the preseason is Raheem Blackshear. He's on the practice squad. I think he's another one that could push for Duke Johnson's role next year. He's a guy that could maybe not be on the roster. Duke Johnson's obviously not going to be here. He's on the practice squad as an insurance bet. But I really think Blackshear's going to be another one that's going to make him think, like, maybe we got to put this guy on the roster. Who knows? That's what's great about running backs nowadays. It's like, it sucks because they're still people, but they are replaceable. Same thing with wide receivers. It's like they always come out of college, and there's always good ones if you find them. You find them anywhere. And then you look at somebody like, on the defensive side, somebody like Bernard or Spector, who aren't really household names, guys you wouldn't really know, but they just have a knack. Like, Bernard, I had a feeling would be decent. Saw his play, and then Spector, I really thought that he was more of a special teams guy, but he's another one. His instincts are great. He just has the right idea with how to do it. He just made plays. It's like, you just do what you can. He's another one that I think is going to force himself on special teams eventually. He may be on the practice squad a few years. We'll see what goes out with him. But it's just these lower depth chart guys, man. It's like, that's what's great about being a team like the Bills right now. We're so good. We have these players that are popping in preseason, and we are scared that they're going to be on other teams. Not the other way around. We're looking at other teams' players like, man, we could use somebody like that. You know, it's like, now we've got the problem of having too many good players. Somebody like Blackshear, who we had no idea if he was going to be on our practice squad. He just has that. Granted, you know, look at the level of competition, but the way he's running, it's like, that's just great vision. The stuff you can't teach. You look for that. It's like, does he have speed? Does he have vision? Does he catch? What can he do? And Blackshear's one of those like Cook. It's like, he has the stuff you can't teach. And that's what makes him somebody like him good. Somebody like him that you want to work with. It's like Josh Allen, you know, Bass. It's like, do they have stuff we can't teach them? And then can we teach them what they don't know? And that's where our coaching comes in. And we've shown that we have very solid coaches. Which is also another point I should make. Talking about our additions. I think the offensive side of the ball, we did a great job in putting the right people around Dorsey. Aaron Cromer is probably the most unsung addition that we could have on this team. If I can be honest, getting Cromer is going to be huge for Dorsey. And his run game and everything like that. That's what's going to make the run game the best. You know, getting Brady and Ditka are going to be nice to keep his head right, but the best thing is that. And with that, let's go Bills and let's take down the Rams. I'm not going to make any predictions for the score or anything. I'm just going to say Bills more than the Rams, less than that. All right, and with that, on the great play, McDermott clapped to end it. Enjoy the game, and go Bills, like I said.